Hello. I wanted to jump on today and just tell you a story about my youngest client that I've ever had. So, or at least at the time, it was the youngest client I've ever had. Now that I'm thinking back, I've had younger clients, but it's a cute little story. So I want to tell you all about it. So one day I was just doing Reiki. I was a Reiki practitioner. I was just doing some energy work. I was out there, putting my name out there as a Reiki practitioner. And I had a woman phone me and she asked me a question, and that was like, how young can you work on a body? Like, how young of a client can you work on? And I said, well, I mean, we can work on babies if we need to. And she said, oh, good, because I have this little baby that I need to have some energy work done with. And I said, oh, sure, that's great. No problem. Like, how old is the baby? And the day she called, he was 6 days old. And I was like, oh my gosh, like baby snuggles. And at this point, I wasn't doing any work online. I was only doing work in person. And I thought, oh my gosh, baby snuggles, like this is going to be amazing. And a newborn baby. So I got her in my office a few days later. So I think the day that I worked with them, he was 9 days old. And what she was calling about and what she was wanting help with is that he had been diagnosed with some condition to do with one of his cranial nerves. And he had a side of his face that was paralyzed, and the nerve that fires for the function of motor movement wasn't working. And so he was going to be unable to talk properly. He was going to be unable to have a, we'll say regular facial movement in his face. And one of the things that was going to be affected is that his smile was going to be affected. And so she asked me, if we could help. And I said, well, you know what? I mean, yeah, like, why not? It's energy work. It's when we're looking at energy work, whether it's Reiki or quantum healing or decodes or whatever it is, we're working with the energy of life. We're working with life force energy. So sure, why not? Let's give it a try. And so I was holding this little one in my arms, getting the best baby snuggles, but I was holding him in my arms and just really looking at him, doing the energy work that I intuitively, was doing with him. But I really started to tap into the mother's energy and started to ask the mother questions and was doing the clearing work for this little one through the mother. Now, the mother was holding on to all of these beliefs around a child with a disability, or a child that wasn't going to be like, other kids or whatever it may be. And we had to do some clearing around that. And at one point, I remember passing the baby back over to her, and she was holding on to him, and I was working on the top of his head, and I was just giving the energy work and just doing my Reiki ball the way I love to do my Reiki ball, and just giving this little one all of the energy work around his head. And I don't know how long we were working, probably 10, 15 minutes, something like that. And all of a sudden, he cracked a smile. And he smiled at his mom. And this little guy was only like 9 days old, but he cracked this smile. And it was almost like I was finished working on him and just waiting to kind of see, okay, well, you know what, like, let's just wrap the session up or whatever. And he smiled, and he smiled at his mom, and she was so ecstatic. She, in the middle of, all of this, she burst into tears, of course. And she was just so grateful. And what I loved about that whole session was, even though I had never worked on a little one that young, even though in my mind I was like, how the heck do we fix nerve damage, whatever it might be, I dropped all of those beliefs. I dropped all of those thoughts that I might not be able to work with this little one. And she was able to drop any of the expectations that she had, or any of the ways that she thought that this wasn't going to work either. And she was really open to allowing energy work into her life and into the life of this little one. And so I just thought it was amazing. I thought it was a cool story to share with you this month, because we're talking all about fertility and babies and pregnancy and all the things. So I thought it was a really cool story to share with you, and just how we can open up our healing to include energy work. All right. I hope you enjoyed the story as much as I did.